Hey guys, I wanted to make a video today. It's probably not going to be the best quality video, I'm just going for a walk. Um, so apologies for that, but I want to just say some things and get some stuff out there, so this will have to do for now. I've been thinking about a lot of things. I've heard Jordan Peterson talk about I guess like narcissistic men and sort of psychopaths, and there's a whole lot of concepts like archetypes and kind of tropes that people fall into, and I think that really interests me. And I try to understand like psychopathology and different sort of tropes and maybe underlying ethics and philosophies underneath some of those things. And not to word salad too much, I want to talk about some things that finally clicked for me, and realizing an example. So Jordan Peterson, he's talked about the mimicking of competence among sort of narcissists, and I really don't like to use that word because I feel like it's been overused, but I sort of realized recently that I think a good example of this is someone like Hasan Piker. And I think what I mean by this is, there's sort of like this sense of like false elevation, I think, with like Hasan Piker. And you could really say that about anyone, but I think people who excuse me, I think a really good example of like false elevation would be like someone like Stalin. I mean, even Hitler. Because they're sort of like they're like hierarchies, but they're almost like negative hierarchies in a way. Because you consider someone like Hitler, and you don't think of him as like someone who rose to the top of a hierarchy, even though he technically did. He's more so the antithetical to hierarchy in a way. And you see this, I think, with you see this antithetical hierarchy climbing with tyrants, and it's in false elevation, and it's really a trope with power, and where excuse me, where you think of the cliche of like a bad guy in like a speed racer film. And let me pause this so I can cough this out. You think of a bad guy like in a speed racer cartoon or movie, or cartoon where the bad guy, it's a vehicle race, and they're the good guy is playing by the books, but the bad guy is kind of using everything under his sleeve or in his sleeve, and he's using everything up his sleeve to cheat, to get ahead, to get an advantage, and to get, and that is sort of a good I think that's how I really understand the use of power. Power is pretty much by any means necessary to attain power, and you have all these sort of nefarious ways of getting advantages, and it's hard for me to say exactly what Hasan Piker has done or hasn't done in that regard, but it's just the sense I get, really. And I mean, could be wrong, could be totally wrong. And but I mean, I just feel like there's a lot of dishonesty and sort of clickbait in a way, and I mean, I believe Hasan Piker has primarily built his reputation through controversy, and I mean that a lot of people build their reputation through controversy, admittedly. I mean, Jordan Peterson did, but I think it's different from how, say, Jordan Peterson gained controversy. Hasan gained controversy by, I mean, shocking his dog was kind of the tipping, the thing that just tipped the scales, but it kind of built up from, his endorsement of terrorist groups and freedom fighters and revolutionaries, and his endorsement of Stalin and Mao Zedong, and he went to China and had a little red book of communism, Mao's red book, small red book, and and so he's been a really strong advocate for sort of revolutionary sort of politics, I suppose. The idea of just you get power through violence, and that's how you get it done, and no, and the age of discussion is pretty much, he says it's over, and that you just should just try to get your own way by the use of power. It's pretty much like it's pretty much self-evident when you watch enough of his stuff that he's primarily trying to pretty much force his way that he thinks is right through violence and revolution, and he believes he's sort of he represents or can speak for or act for on the behalf of, say, working people or the dispossessed, and okay, this is really going down a rabbit hole, but it's that cliche of power, and how power can be used as a way to kind of elevate in status, and it's sort of an appeal, I believe, for people, the idea of you can get what you want if you just kind of force your way or by any means necessary, and I think that appeals to people because there's sort of like there's spoils to it, much like that example of Speed Racer, of the cheater archetype, where they will actually win a race through cheating, and they'll get ahead of the racer by cutting corners, by throwing oil down to make other cars crash out, by pushing cars off the road, and sabotaging other people's vehicles, and And so the appeal to that is that you get to sort of be the hero by being up on that pedestal at the end of the race, and celebration, you think everyone will celebrate you. Some people will celebrate you, because some people, a lot of people, are undiscerning, and they may not recognize the cheat, the and so I think that's emblematic in a way of what Jordan Peterson talks about when he talks about, say, toxic men and toxic relationships and narcissistic men where women, this sort of false competency that women can sometimes be undiscerning of the truly competent and say the cheaters. And so there's that. So I think right now, in society, we see sort of this pretty much like a flip of what people value. Like, the value structures are really flipping in society, and you see that in totalitarian regimes where people celebrate people like Hitler, and so that affirmation it serves as sort of like a reaffirmation. It's like, oh, he must be doing the right thing. People are cheering for him. He has all this. You never see people cheer for anyone quite like you see people cheer for Hitler, and so it seems like all the things are there to make it affirm itself in its direction. You have people cheering. Maybe there's a rise to power. You have the wealth, perhaps, the command, the obedience from subordinates, and so and like, what is it really? Like, what I like to think of, like, okay, what is this capitalizing on? What is it's ironic to say that about, say, like, communism, but there really is a capitalizing aspect to communism in really the most gregarious meaning of the word. Capitalizing is very much so nowadays, used as a epithet to sort of describe something that is negative. Oh, the dirty capitalists, and the exploiters. But like talk about a negative form of capitalism. Like, communism has a track record of, it's like communism is a thing that is like, okay, we're doing this on the behalf of the goodness of humanity. We're doing this for your own good. It's like a lot of the rationale is like, we know what is best for the world, and we're going to do everything we can to implement it, and we're going to pretty much destroy everyone who tries to get in the way of that goal. And but I think there's darker motivations for why people try to climb to positions of power. It's mate selection, to have a partner. This sort of housing, material resources is very materialistic, really. I mean, it has a lot to do with the physical world. Material acquisition, partner, supply, whatever. Um, and it's not really something that is even a left or right issue. You have the rape of Nanking, you have Nazi Germany, you have Mao's China, you have Stalinist Russia, and these are really the big examples, but there's commonalities. If you were to say, okay, if everything is between left and right, it's a unidimensional analysis that is fails to account for other paradigms such as like authoritarian or authoritarianism and libertarianism. Because you can have authoritarian left and you can have authoritarian right. And you can also have sort of libertarian left and libertarian right. And so it's like the dimensions of analysis, and it's not a left and right issue, okay? There's deeper things. So there's obviously bad actors or whatever on the left, and on the right you're gonna find something dirty out of any group identity, okay? You're going to find the worst of the worst within a given group, and you're going to have that be the example of the group, and that's just how things usually go. So I want to get back to sort of Hasan Piker, and actually I want to talk about female archetypes now. Female archetypes they're very difficult for me to study right now, because there's not as much out there when it comes to female archetypes as there are for male archetypes. There isn't really it's not as readily definable as male archetypes and tropes. For whatever reason, it's just kind of, I think, something that has yet to be studied, and I don't think that's really a bad or a good thing. But it's actually kind of a honeypot. I think people should study female psychology and archetypes more. But there's different ideas of female archetypes already, obviously, and so you have like the femme fatale, which is a very popular one, and then you have sort of the motherly archetypes, the devouring mother, and like the nurturing mother, and I've sort of realized that people can actually embody almost pretty much all the archetypes, and that people obviously aren't limited to definitions really, but it's still I think something worth studying, because there's just tropes, and once you understand sort of tropes, I think you can kind of recognize patterns, and I don't think we should be naive as well to these patterns, because a very common pattern is like toxic relationships, toxic men, or even toxic women, and toxic relationships, and I think right now a lot of women they sort of fall for the toxic men because of sort of what I've laid out, you know, and there's sort of this hierarchical position within society that I think toxic men who use power, you know, they can get to these positions of false elevation and mimicry of competence, and you know, it's sort of very facetious. And because, you know, when I go to watch someone like Hasan Piker and sit down, I often notice that it's like there really isn't like a, you know, it doesn't seem like a really thought out intellectualism, you know, like he's not like, and it's more just reactionary sort of gut reactions to whatever's going on, and it's very, I mean, to use the word reactionary, it's very fitting for that term. You know, whatever happens, he's having these gut reactions, and they're often really extreme emotional reactions, and you know, it's a very emotional volatility, and I think a lot of people may not really admit to it or, you know, fully recognize, but I think it's emblematic of something deeper, you know, and obviously, as with anyone really, they try to present their best selves when they're doing something like a stream, but one can only imagine, you know, what he's really like off stream, and if anyone's ever been around someone who's like abusive, I think you'll know what I'm talking about. How there's sort of that proclivity for, you know, slamming doors, sort of, and like a sort of domineering presence, and just intimidation, and I think there is honestly like an infantilism with, you know, that characterization of like Hasan Piker, because like I said, it's emotional volatility, and it's very he's always signaling emotionally in a way to the outside world, like things are wrong, things aren't right, and he demands attention, and things need to get fixed. You know, it's like that. It's like a baby that cries, you know, very loud and profusely for attention, and yeah, and I think it just there's something I think really deep about it, where I think there's people who often have emotional volatility like that, like the immaturity really is, I think they often are they're putting blame on other things in the outside world, and like it's up to the outside world to change so things cater much better to themselves and their own experience. Like it's like trying to hit a soda machine until it gives way and it gives you a soda, you know, and it's sort of that attitude of the world that if you just bang in it enough, then it'll operate properly, and if you cause enough of a commotion, and I think people when people don't take personal responsibility and ownership of their lives, and they resort to blaming the outside world, then it's the outside world's, like, things don't get fixed that way really, and like emotional volatility, because you're putting the responsibility of fixing things onto other people, And um, when and if you do that, nothing's gonna get fixed, pretty much. And nothing is guaranteed going to get fixed. Versus if you take personal responsibility to fix something, and engage with something, and your odds of, I think, solving a problem or finding solutions towards a greater solution for a problem, like I lost weight, man. I lost weight several times, actually, and it was me that had to fix it, because if I just laid around and waited for, say, medical revolution or something like that, for a new Ozempic or some drug to just fix me, I don't think it would have solved anything. And I couldn't wait for a solution like that. I couldn't wait around for the government or medicine to come up with a solution. I couldn't blame the outside world. And I had to take personal responsibility over the situation, leadership, over the situation, and begin to investigate of, like, okay, what are some diets out there I can try, and I never gave up. And you see a lot of people who give up at some point. They'll say they tried every diet. They haven't. And because for me, when I finally did carnivore, I realized it's what works. And the only thing that messes it up is when I fail at the diet, when I cheat. And that was a very hard ass lesson that I had to cede to, concede. And that being like, okay, the diet works, it's just I need to stay on that log, and I failed at it. And I know what it's like to be in those desperate situations, to hope for some drug to fix it. But no, you just got to keep trying. And it's like it can be like trying to break through a wall, and it's like it's worth to just keep up the effort to chip away at it, and it might take time. It might take 100 attempts, like with getting sober and everything. It might take 100 attempts. It might take 1,000 or more, but it's that mission of, where you need to go, and you're doing what you can to really try to solve the problem. And the reason why I didn't go for like drugs and other cop-out options is because honestly, being fat in the past really taught me how to eat much healthier for myself. It taught me how to eat properly. And I would have never learned that if I just took a drug. Because weight isn't everything. The food you eat, the protein, the fat molecules, and all of that, it feeds the bacteria in your gut, and that bacteria creates brain hormones. And there's a very intricate balance of how all of that works. And everything from your skin, to your nails, to your bones, is comprised of specific nutrients. And if you just take a drug to make you not want to eat, then you're not gonna learn how to eat properly. And if you can just eat a shitty diet and maintain weight, you know, your your health is gonna suffer for it. You know, people may be able to get away with it for a while, get away with it. They won't know the difference because they never, you know, tried a healthy diet, and it'll affect how they feel, and you know, their proclivity for illnesses, and their you know, how robust their immune system is, and yeah, bone density and all these things. And this is really getting into a rant, but I mean, I might as well just say some of this stuff too. It's off topic, but you know, and then people will say, okay, what's the point of trying to eat healthy if you can just die any day? And the issue is that, well, yeah, you can die any day, but even in a day, you can experience a positive change. You know, you eat clean for a day, and you're gonna feel better. There might be a withdrawal process, you know, in the following days, and it might suck. It probably will suck, but it might not, you know. And it's like, you can literally improve your day to day. And you know, people might think, okay, but eating junk food and all this stuff, eating how I want, there's a pleasure associated with that, and people think that they would be sacrificing that pleasure, or like, I don't know, starving themselves by giving up all that stuff. It's really like a sacrifice. And but people think that it's gonna, by just only eating meat, or you know, that it's like you're not gonna be able to enjoy food. And that's actually far from the truth. I enjoy food now more than ever. You know, I enjoy food knowing that it's not gonna make me sick. You know, it's not gonna make me feel like shit. Obviously I have to be careful with, like, you know, knowing how much I can eat, and with knowing how much I can eat, and just knowing my body, and you know, trying to get things more in tune, and not doing things wildly, like I don't eat shrimp. I don't eat there's a lot of things I don't eat. Cheese I don't eat, and just learning those different things, and trying to, you know, tune things up. But you know, I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you guys for watching. I definitely want to make more videos about this. Hopefully, I mean, I'll get back to like a better setup. So thank you guys for watching. Peace out.